Ever notice how some people you just click with them like they're an open book, but then there are others. Feels like you're trying to crack a walnut to get to know them.
Yeah.
Well, get this. The piece we're diving into today, it uses, get this, a fruit analogy to explain this whole thing.
Hmm. Fruit.
I know, right? Sounds kind of out there, but trust me, it gets interesting.
Okay.
So, you ready to peel back the layers on this one?
Yeah, lay it on me. What's the deal with people being like fruit?
Right, so this piece, it talks about two main things. The casca, which is Portuguese,
Yeah.
for like the outer shell, think rind, skin, you get it.
Okay, yeah, the outer layer.
Right, and then there's the caroso, that's the pit, the seed, the hidden part inside.
A good.
Exactly. And the source is saying, basically, we all build up these cascas, these outer defenses, just like fruit, to protect that vulnerable caroso inside each of us.
Makes sense. We're all kind of soft and squishy on the inside, right? So we build up these walls.
Exactly. And the source goes even further, saying it's not just us as individuals, but all of humanity. They describe the earth as like this giant apple, and we're just these tiny little microbes living on the surface.
Whoa, that puts things in perspective.
Right. Talk about feeling small. So I'm curious, does that resonate with you at all? This idea of like feeling insignificant in such a vast universe?
You know, it really does. It's like you look up at the stars and realize how small we really are.
And I think that's exactly what the source is getting at. It's like this awareness of our own fragility, this feeling of being kind of insignificant in the grand scheme of things. It's what makes us want to build up those cascas, those defenses in the first place.
It's like we're trying to create a little bubble of safety in this crazy world.
And it makes total sense. I mean, think about it. Have you ever like put on a brave face when you were actually falling apart inside, or acted super tough when you felt anything but?
Oh, totally. Happens all the time.
Right. And that's exactly what the source is talking about. It's like, these are the ways we build up our cascas, acting tough, pretending to be self-sufficient, even if we're dying for help.
And shutting down emotionally, too. Like after we get hurt, we close ourselves off to avoid getting hurt again.
Yeah. Self-preservation, right?
Mm.
But then there's this whole other side of the coin, which is our very human need for connection. So how does the source suggest we balance those two things?
Well, it ties it all back to our egos.
Egos. Okay.
And before you think it's about being selfish, it's not that simple. It's more like we're conditioned from a very young age to protect ourselves, to see vulnerability as this weakness.
That's interesting.
And that conditioning, that fear of vulnerability, it makes forming real, genuine connections so much harder.
Because if you can't be vulnerable, how can you truly let someone in?
Exactly.
You know what? This reminds me of this one time I was... Actually, you know what? It's probably a story for another time.
Come on. You can't just leave us hanging.
Uh-huh. All right. All right. Maybe another deep dive. But it made me think about how we all struggle with this. Balancing that need to protect ourselves with the desire to connect with others.
Yeah.
And sometimes letting our guard down too quickly, it can backfire.
Totally. And that's where the whole seed analogy comes in.
Okay, how so?
Because think about it, a seed, it has to crack open, become vulnerable, right, in order to grow into something beautiful.
So you're saying our caroso, that inner seed, that's where our capacity for connection lies.
Exactly. But it needs the right environment to flourish. The source emphasizes that genuine effort, like real conversations, sincerity, allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. That's what helps those seeds grow.
So basically, we got to tend to our relationships with the same care we would a delicate plant.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Even with the best intentions, our cascas can get in the way, Sometimes we end up hurting the people we care about most without even meaning to.
Ouch, yeah. Like that saying, you always hurt the ones you love. It's like this vicious cycle. We build up walls to protect ourselves, but those same walls can end up pushing people away. So are we just doomed to repeat this pattern?
Not necessarily. And this is what's so hopeful about the fruit metaphor. It reminds us that even the toughest, prickliest exteriors often hide something sweet and valuable inside.
Okay, I like that. So how do we break the cycle then? How do we get past those prickly defenses?
Well, the source suggests that recognizing those defenses for what they are is a good place to start. Like next time someone's acting closed off, or maybe even being a little prickly.
Instead of like getting defensive ourselves.
Exactly. Maybe try to remember that there's a caroso under there. It might just change your whole approach. It's about having empathy, remembering that everyone's fighting their own battles, and sometimes those battles make them build up walls.
And maybe if we can approach each other with a little more understanding, a little more grace, we can create the kind of space where those carosos, those vulnerable inner seeds, they feel safe enough to come out and, bloom.
Exactly. Who knows what amazing things could happen if we all felt a little safer, letting our Carosos see the light of day.
That's something to chew on, right?
Yeah.
So next time you meet someone new, think about what kind of fruit they might be. Are they a prickly pineapple, a tough coconut, or maybe a sweet, juicy mango just waiting to be peeled?
I love that.
And remember, no matter how tough the exterior, there's always that potential for something incredible hidden inside, just waiting for the right conditions to grow.